guys how to, like, intro to Zbrush and also how to export displacement maps from both Zbrush and Mudbox. Before I do that, I want to really quickly go over the assignments for this week, because I feel like keeping this assignment is like a little bit, not weird, but like knowing what it is might help you like contextualize what I'm about to show you. So basically this week, you'll be texturing. I'm going to be a little flexible about the object, I think. So originally the idea was like pick something soft and squishy, so like a plushie, cushion, beanbag chair, like a, bed sheets with slightly wrinkled pillows, that kind of thing. And the idea is basically you're going to make a relatively simple base mesh in Maya, and then take that, UV it, and then take that into either Mudbox or Zbrush. If you know a comparable program that you prefer working in, probably fine with that. Just like email me to make sure. Yeah, and then you're gonna make like a displacement normal map to help like pop out the extra detail in that surface of the object. Then you're gonna bring those textures back into Maya and render your object. It's pretty standard, like 3 renders of your object, like zip everything you used. I don't necessarily need like your Mudbox or Zbrush files. If you specifically want me to look at them to like troubleshoot issues or something like that, you're welcome to include them. Other than that, I'm probably never going to open them. So any questions on the basic, like what you need to do for the assignment? I have some like examples and other things, but I mean, I feel like the basic idea is like pretty straightforward. Basically, the goal for this assignment is like whenever you're picking an object to do, the goal is going to be to make something as realistic as possible, and like have whatever details you put in there be really realistic. So like, example, I guess if you were doing a face, if you wanted to, if you look at a face, like initially it kind of seems like skin might be smooth, but like realistically, we all have pores on our skin. A lot of times like eyebrows or like the foreheads will have like those little eyebrow wrinkles in them. There might be like moles or birthmarks or like little crinkles around your eyes. Like the lips have a different texture than the rest of the skin. Same thing for like the under eye, eyelids and stuff. So like your goal would be to capture all of that as realistically as possible. If you're doing a chair or like a cushion, you would just try to get as nice looking like folds and wrinkles in there, and then definitely get whatever material. So if you do choose to do like a cushion or something like that, make sure that you add in like some kind of cloth texture to it, or like cloth, leather. Like it doesn't need to be subtle, but like know what your object is made, like know what your cushion thing is made out of, because it'll affect, for one, how the wrinkles sit, and then also like what texture you're gonna overlay onto it later. If you do a piece of fruit, make it as realistic as humanly possible. Citrus is good for this because it is just like, it's kind of like skin. It's like fruit skin because it has pores in it too. But I mean, if you do like a watermelon, it's like probably too smooth. If you're gonna do a fruit, do something with like interesting surface detail. But yeah, so I mean, these are just guidelines for objects to choose. If you do want to do a head, I do have this like weird demo head that's in the sample models folder. You guys are welcome to use that. It's already UV'd, should be good to go. But yeah, so any other questions on that? Yes? Would fabric work for this assignment? Yeah, so I mean, I'd probably do like fabric in some kind of volume. So like, are you talking about, I happen to have, so I would recommend doing something more like this kind of fabric, where like if you look at this pillow, it's just sort of like, it's a pillow, compared to like this. But like, what, were you thinking of anything in particular? Oh. Heck yeah. Yeah. Oh no, I know exactly what that is. Yeah, no, that'd be awesome. I'm very much a fan of utility pouches. And if you happen to have like, if you happen in CGI1 to model any kind of like power tools, throw them in the background for funsies. No, that's totally fine. Yeah, I was just thinking anything like this where it's like crazy, like this was totally done with a simulation to like put the cloth on the bed. This is excessive. But yeah, I mean, something like that where you could just model like the base pouch thing and then texture in like whatever would be good. As long as there's like enough like little details and stuff to get in there, like that's totally fine. But yeah, so at the bottom of the assignment doc, I linked just some like weird, just like random pillows and stuff that I found on Sketchfab. And in case I haven't like shown you guys my Sketchfab spiel, it's like my favorite thing ever. So it's basically just like an online model viewer. You can upload your model. I use this all the time for like allowing clients to like preview models I'm doing. It's way easier than screenshots. But it's really powerful because if you go down at the bottom right of the window, there's like all these little tabs. If you go to this like square pancake stack, click on that. This is the model inspector. You can actually go through and like inspect the model. So like you can see the wireframe of these meshes. Since they're like fairly low poly, you can look at individual channels like for the textures and stuff that were mapped on. So they have like very subtle texture for roughness, et cetera, et cetera. You can see like the normal maps they used. So this is like the matte cap is basically just like the base model with like no textures, just like put a sort of shiny texture on it and like this is what you get. Matte cap plus surface shows you basically the generic, the model itself plus any maps for like displacement or normal or bump maps. So for this assignment, I thought this was like a good sort of demo, like, again, base object. Once you add those normal maps in there, you can see there's like a lot of additional detail for the sort of folds of this cushion here. And you also get like a little bit of cloth texture, get that like nice little seam around your objects. I'm really big into like in general, if you're doing cloth stuff and there's a seam in it, like, yo, put that seam in and like maybe put some stitching around it. Like it looks awesome. Seams and stitching make me happy and they make everything look way more realistic compared to just like having a seamless pillow, because like how is that physically made? Like it doesn't really make sense. But so again, so you can see here, like relatively simple base mesh. And then they use the normal maps to really add in, like punch in some extra detail and make it look like there's additional wrinkles in here. Sketchfab's a bit weird. They don't do displacements quite like Maya does. You actually have to have like mesh density. Sketchfab is basically a texture deformer for a displacement map, which is why I think they modeled in some of these, modeled in manually some of the folds. But so again, and this is like actually a pretty decent example of like different types of fabric. Weird little generic pillow over here, but you have like this sort of rougher, almost like burlappy looking material. What is this? I don't know. Some kind of rougher material here. And you even have this like sort of corduroy looking stuff, which I guess would probably be similar to your utility belt. But yeah, so I mean this is the kind of thing that you're shooting for your assignment, is to take a kind of generic base mesh like this, and then displace in a lot of these nice additional textures in here. Another example, so I mean this is like kind of a weird example, because I'd be willing to bet money that this was actually, the overall shape of this bed was simmed on. You'll see that it's like crazy dense geometry in here. They even modeled in like the folds in here, which is excessive even for me. But what they've done is so here's like the matte cap, and then here's matte cap plus surface. And you can see, like, if you look at the bed, you basically use they used a bump map to just add like a little bit of additional texturing to the blanket. And you can also see, so again, here's like the headboard. For some reason they modeled all of this detail in, and then they just used the surface detail to add in a sort of leather texture to the background. So it probably makes more sense if you're to model like this type of backboard for your assignment. Just model in like the basic poof shape with like the button, and then model in, like, displace in all of these creases and like bump map in the texture is probably much more logical for something like this. Here's an example of a very low poly pillow, which is rendering. No, it is rendered. All right. So again, just model inspector. This is pretty much just like a square, and they just poked in some of the sides. So this one does rely pretty heavily on the in this case, normal map, to really sort of push in some of the sides and like add in pretty much all of the extra very subtle subtle textures you see like around the top area here. So again, no textures, with textures, and you can see it's just like really good for adding extra detail. I mostly just put these cushions in here so you guys could like get an idea of just like other things that people have done. A dumb example of like, look, they textured stitching in, and I love stitching, and stitching is good. Just like, again, nice additional details. But yeah, so that's pretty much this project. Are there any questions about this? All right. One thing that might be interesting to consider is if you did make like a nice looking cushion, you could use that in future projects to like sit an object on, or just like throw it in the background of your final if it contextually made sense with whatever you're doing. But yeah, so I mean the goal is basically just like get used to working in Zbrush and Mudbox, and then work on sort of replicating fine textures in said programs. But yeah. So with that being said, let's actually go into Zbrush, she said with far too much zeal. Alright, so this is Zbrush. When you open it, normally it gives you this like weird like pop-up thing here, which is honestly super annoying. It's just like, here's a list of recent files. There's a little hide button right here, just hide it. I literally never use that for anything. And you'll notice, actually I'm gonna start a new document. Just, alright, 5 seconds.